Good evening, everybody. I'm Rhoda from Parish Resource Center. Thank you for joining us this evening. I know we have a little bit of a smaller crowd this evening, but I know that we also had a lot of people register to see the recording later. So I'm excited for the conversation we'll have and that they'll be able to join in later. This is part of our year-long focus on food insecurity. And tonight we're focusing specifically on children and hunger. In Lancaster County, 1 in 6.5 kids experience hunger. So it is a very pressing, prevalent issue. And we're so glad to have with us tonight a panel that's going to take kind of some slightly different pieces of the same project, the same approach, and give us some more details on that. So we'll start out with Brad Peterson. He's the executive director of Power Packs Project, which is a backpack program that sends home ingredients and food to help kids bridge the gap between school meals over the weekends. So thank you so much for being here. Brad, I will turn it over to you. Oh, and I will just one more thing on questions. Feel free to chat questions at any time. And then we'll also have a time where you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask questions directly as well. Brad?
Thank you, Rhoda. Good evening, everyone. I almost said good morning. I guess that tells you where I am right now. Thank you for joining us. Give me a second here. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully I can do this. All right, can everyone see my screen and give me a thumbs up or something? Okay. All right. So there's going to be a whole lot of data in this, a whole lot of statistics, a lot of numbers. Before we get into all that, I really like to start with something like this because I don't ever want to lose sight of why we do this. So it's all about making sure kids like Sean here have the nutrition they need to grow and develop properly and thrive in school. That is why we do what we do every single day. So that being said, oops, I went one too far. Oh, well, I don't know if I know how to go back or not. There we go. No, I'm going forward. Hang on one second. I'm going to stop my share and go backwards and hopefully start all over again. There we go. Excuse my technical incompetence.
When you're in it, you can normally use your arrow buttons, your right and left arrows.
Oh, okay.
To go forward and backward.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rhoda. Okay, so we'll get away from Sean. So start by looking at some big picture numbers. This is data collected by Feeding America, the largest hunger fighting organization in the country. This is from all across the US. There really isn't anything here that's very surprising. 1 in 8 kids are at risk for hunger. Black children, people of color are much more likely to be food insecure. The number of single mother households, that has remained steady for many, many years. Basically 1 in 4 households is at risk for hunger for single mom households. If you break it down a little bit closer to home, these are numbers once again from Feeding America, but this is numbers in Pennsylvania. So, and these are from 2020. So nothing's changed since then, right? Do we even remember anything before 2020? So as you can see, kids are far more likely to be food insecure than adults. As Rhoda said, about 1 in 6 kids in Lancaster County. That's about the same in Lebanon and Lancaster or York counties. Another item of note, that number that you saw on the past slide about single mother households, that really holds true over this footprint as well. About 1 in 4 single mother households in Power Pack service territory are food insecure. These numbers are pretty stunning if you never saw them before, and they've only increased since 2020. I can assure you of that. Just to give you an idea of how things have changed since 2020, in 2021, Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, which is the large Feeding America regional food bank in our area, it's based in Harrisburg, they did another study and they analyzed the charitable food network in Lancaster County. They measured from January 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2021, the number of unique individuals who received food at least once from a food pantry or some other hunger fighting organization. That number was 28,629. So what that means when I say unique individuals, that means someone is only counted once. So over 28,000 people at least one time came and accessed food from a food pantry. To compare that, the same time period in 2020, the year before, that number was 18,639. So in 1 year, it was an increase of 10,260 more people, an increase of 56% in that 1 year from 2020 to 2021. That's quite a jump, a huge increase in just 1 year's time in Lancaster County. And then another study that the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank did earlier this year, just once again to drive home the point of how this is increasing, indicated that 24% of people who are suffering from very low food insecurity skip meals and do not eat regularly to stretch their food dollars. So I mentioned very low food insecurity there. We're going to use that term, and you've probably heard that term many, many times. So this is the United States Department of Agriculture's definition of food insecurity. They have a very precise definition. A lot of people use food insecurity and hunger interchangeably, and they can be somewhat, but to the USDA, hunger is what results from food insecurity. You can see the definitions there. They also break it down into low food security and very low food security. For our purposes, we aren't going to get that specific, but I thought everyone should take a look at this and see what this is just as we talk about this so they know exactly what we're talking about. So what are the consequences of a child facing hunger? As you can guess, more health problems, both as a child and later in life. Really, a lot of the big problems are kids doing worse in school, maybe not even graduating from high school because they're facing food insecurity, because they're hungry. The chances are that their growth and development will be stunted. They'll have behavioral problems, etc. This is exactly where Power Packs comes into play. This is why we exist. We want to provide the nutrition that kids need so that they're all starting at the same starting line. So when kids start school, they all have the nutrition they need to succeed, to be healthy, to have academic success. So this is our mission statement at Power Packs. We provide weekend meals when kids don't have school meals. It's really pretty much that simple. But it's really about empowering families, educating families, and providing nutrition. So how did we come to this? Well, back in 2005, a woman named Joan Espenshade was volunteering at Carter McRae Elementary in Lancaster City. Week after week, Monday mornings, she was seeing kids lined up at the nurse's station. And after a few weeks or a month, her curiosity got the better of her, and she went and asked the nurse why that was the case, because there were lots more kids there Monday mornings, and the nurse told Joan it was because the kids hadn't eaten all weekend and they had a bellyache. She was flabbergasted by that, as we all would be, and she was ashamed that here in Lancaster County that was the case. So Joan decided she could not just let that be the case and let that happen. So she put together what she liked to call a kitchen table committee, meaning she worked out of her house in her dining room. She and her husband, people they went to church with, people that they worked with, friends, family, for 4 years, they worked out of their dining room, starting with 14 families that they identified at Carter McRae Elementary they would go out and buy groceries for every week and give it to them on Fridays so the kids had something to eat over the weekend. In 2009, Power Packs was incorporated. We got our 501c3, our tax exempt status. And now, 18 years later, this is Power Packs. From those humble beginnings, we're now partnering with 15 school districts in 3 different counties, 91 school sites, and we're providing food to about 1,400 families a week. That's literally thousands of children and their parents. One thing you'll see on this list is something that most people don't perceive when they think of children going hungry. One common misconception is that it's an urban problem and only an urban problem. And I think if you look at this list, you see Cocalico, Donegal, very rural. You look in Lebanon County, Elko, Northern Lebanon, very rural. Eastern York, which is pretty rural. But you also see Manheim Township, Penn Manor, Warwick, Hempfield, the suburban schools as well. Studies have really shown that food insecurity is split almost evenly in thirds between urban areas, suburban areas, and rural areas. So it's very, very common to see families in all geographic locations suffering from food insecurity. And these are our numbers through the first 30 weeks of our summer or our school distribution program this year. These are unprecedented for Power Packs, to be perfectly honest. As you can see, if you look at the pounds down there near the bottom, when we distribute this week, we will go over 500,000 pounds of food that we've distributed this year. There's a really good chance, if you look at that bottom line, that we'll hit 500,000 meals just in our 35-week school year distribution this year. Just for comparison's sake, last year in our school year and our 8-week summer program, we distributed just under 400,000 meals. So if you recall back, the food bank showed a 56% increase from 2020 to 2021. We're seeing about a 25% increase, maybe a little bit more than that, from 2021 to 2022. There are many, many families that are struggling now more than they were a year ago, 2 years ago. They're coming looking for food assistance from us and from a variety of other locations. Now, as you look at this school, just for some clarification, because the numbers are really way off. If you look at York County, on March 1st, we started a pilot program for our first school district in York County, which is Eastern York School District, which is the Wrightsville area. We purposely capped those numbers to keep the numbers small, to make sure they had all of their processes in place for their distribution so that everything ran smoothly. So we're only serving 20 to 25 families in the 3 elementary schools in that district through the remainder of this school year distribution. Eastern York School District will be part of our 8-week summer program this year. And in the fall, Power Packs will also be available in their middle school and high school, and we'll be lifting the cap we have on their numbers. So anyone can enroll in Eastern York in the fall. So we're expecting even more numbers once they continue to enroll. These are all just numbers, statistics, like I said. What sets us apart is our model, how we assist families. So there are many, many weekend feeding programs similar to Power Packs, but to the best of our knowledge, we truly are unique, that nobody else does what we do in the United States. So most other weekend feeding programs only offer kid-friendly food, granola bars, microwavable mac and cheese, individual servings of cereal, things like that. These really promote hoarding, which if I was a kid and I didn't have enough to eat, I really don't know that I blame a child for that. But it isn't an effective way at all to diminish food insecurity in families. not to mention a lot of the food that is provided isn't the most nutritious. So what Power Packs does is we provide a weekly recipe for the entire family. This is our recipe from last week, tuna melt in a pepper. So we provide all the ingredients for that recipe. If you look at the ingredients on the left-hand side there, you'll see the families receive fresh peppers, cans of tuna, cheese, and mayo, all the ingredients for that recipe, and then the directions on how to prepare it there beside it. If you look in the lower left corner, we also show families what the cost of all those ingredients will be if they go to buy that. We try to keep it to about $5 to $8. As you can see, this is $7.91. I have to admit that this year there have been times that our ingredients have gone over $10, just because we all know what the cost of food is when we go to the grocery store now. And no matter how hard we try, there were a few times that we couldn't keep it under $10. What we also do every week, and this is part of the empowerment and education for families, is we offer families a tip. As you can see, this is on the health benefits of fish. This is on the backside of that recipe that the families receive every week. The tips will vary. They may be on nutrition education. They may be something about on food prep or food storage, or what the dates on food mean, all those kinds of things. Each week it's something new. We really try to educate families so they can make better, healthier food choices. And we also encourage families to pair the meal together and sit down and have that meal together. We really want to strengthen that family dynamic. We want to teach some real life skills. Here you can see Damien chopping some some carrots. His mom has a potato. She's giving him some instruction. It's good to see a middle school boy in the kitchen chopping some food. Obviously skills that they can take with them forever, some new recipes, and once again, introduce them to some new foods and empower them to make better food choices. So you're probably wondering how the families receive Power Packs. So we partner directly with the schools, all those 91 schools that we mentioned earlier, to promote our program. Each year at the beginning of the school year, schools provide our enrollment information to the families in their school district. Power Packs will also reach out to all the families who were enrolled in the prior year. Families then do an electronic enrollment form to sign up. There's one self-declaration of need form that they must sign in person. That will be signed when they pick up their packs for the first week. Typically, families who are eligible for free and reduced lunches in the schools are eligible for Power Packs also. That's not 100% true, but it's about 98 to 99% true. So, and one thing that makes Power Packs unique is families can use us for as long as they need us. Families can sign up for a week, for 2 weeks, for a month, or for the whole year if they need food assistance. And one of the trends we've seen this year is that the vast majority of our families who signed up in September have continued receiving Power Packs throughout the entire school year. And that is not what we typically see. In the past, our peak distribution time is October and November. And from there, the numbers slowly diminish through the school year. By this time of year, our numbers are at their lowest. This year, we're still enrolling new families every week. There are still families reaching out, realizing that they need help right now. Our numbers have remained steady for months and months and months. We're really expecting record numbers for our 8-week summer program as well, which will begin the 3rd week of June. So to help meet the increasing needs of all these families, this year we've done something different for us and implemented an additional source of families for how they can pick up food from us. So we often have various items that we don't have enough for all of our families, things that can't go into the packs we send home. So this year, once a week in our warehouses in Lebanon and Lancaster, families can come in to pick up some of those extras. Things like Panera bread that we pick up every week, or 64-ounce juice containers, which are just too heavy to put in the packs. We're very, very aware of how heavy the packs are in case kids have to take them home. We'd love to stuff them full of food, but we try to keep them to about 8 to 9 pounds so that an elementary school child can carry them home if they have to. So those big juice containers are too heavy. So we have leftover produce, a little bit of everything. The families come and pick up at our warehouse when they come to pick up our packs. Something else we've implemented this year, we're offering, we have a brand new partnership with Garden Spot Village, a retirement community. The residents there were concerned about food waste. So they reached out to us, put us in touch with their chef, and Garden Spot Village each week is giving us prepackaged frozen meals like you see here, that then we can offer to our families. They can come pick up. As you can see, this is beef cabbage. These are packaged as 4 serving meals. They also do individual serving meals. There's a wide variety of stuff, soups, entrees, lots of great healthy stuff that we can offer our families. We pick up every Thursday from Garden Spot Village, and it's available to our families each week. Just one more way to get healthy, delicious meals to our families and eliminate some food waste. We also partner with the Kellogg's plant here in Lancaster County. Once or twice a month, they will call us and tell us they have excess donations, and we will come back with a truckload full of cereal, which is a tremendous donation for us and something that obviously the children we're serving love. We partner with local farms as well. We have some great partnerships with some of our local growers. They supply fresh produce to us. We also partner with a large farm that many people aren't aware of, First Fruits Farm, which is a 200-acre farm in northern Maryland, and everything they grow, they donate. We've received everything from them, from broccoli, as you see here, to 4 tons of potatoes. You can see some of our volunteers repackaging a bin of potatoes that came from there. More potatoes than I've ever seen in my life, and I'm sure most people have never seen that many potatoes. We also partner with Whittle Farm, which is a smaller farm similar to this. It's a 40-acre farm just outside of Elizabethtown, run by the Lutheran Church. Everything they grow, they donate also. We've received apples from Lancaster Farm Fresh Co-op. We've received some large donations of eggs. There's a distribution site in Lebanon County for Pete and Jerry's eggs. They would donate 10,000 eggs at a time to us. And yes, that's more eggs than I've ever seen at one time too. Our volunteers would repackage them into the cartons, and we would give eggs out in small quantities. I'm very reluctant to hand out eggs to kids to take home for a variety of reasons. So we shared eggs. We had an abundance of eggs. We shared with the Lancaster Food Hub, Salvation Army, Lebanon County Christian Ministries. With the abundance we had, we just wanted to get eggs in the hands of people who need them. We all know what egg costs have been like. So getting the eggs out to people has just been a tremendous, tremendous blessing for us and for the families we're serving. I mentioned that we pick up at the Panera in Lancaster County once a week. They give us leftover bread, pastries, all kinds of things, something that our families absolutely adore getting from us. One of the big undertakings we've taken on in the last actually 2 years is our fresh milk distribution program. So when I started at Power Packs about 3 years ago, we occasionally received some donations of milk. Not often, usually not ever enough for all of the families we were serving. And when we did get it, it was typically at the end of its shelf life. And the number one requested item from the families we were serving was fresh milk. We were distributing some powdered milk. No one likes it. I don't like it. I wouldn't drink it. I don't want to have anybody else drink it. A lot of shelf stable milk, which is marginally better, but so we made the decision we were going to distribute fresh milk. So we formed a partnership with Harrisburg Dairies, and this has just become incredibly good for us and for our families. So each week on a Wednesday, we email Harrisburg Dairies and tell them how much milk we need that week, how many packs we're going to distribute. Over the weekend, they distribute that milk, or I'm sorry, they process that milk. On Mondays and Tuesdays, their trucks deliver it to our warehouse. And on Wednesdays and Thursdays, we distribute it out to our families. And they have a quart of fresh, wholesome milk every week with the full shelf life of that milk. Once again, we'd love to give a half gallon or even a gallon of milk, but we don't want to ask kids to carry that home. This has just been amazing. Our families are just so incredibly happy to be getting this milk every week. And it's really a win-win because the families are getting what they need. The kids are getting the nutrition from it. Harrisburg Dairies gets about 95% of their milk from Lancaster County dairy farmers. The Lancaster County dairy farmers took such a hit during the pandemic with schools closed, with restaurants closed. So we're supporting them. We're supporting a local industry with Harrisburg Dairies. Families are getting what they want. It's really a win-win for everyone. We could not be more happy to get our fresh milk out. And Jade was more than happy to pose for us with some of our fresh milk when we went looking to take some photos. And just one more child who's really, really thrilled to be getting milk from us. A lot of the non-perishable food we get comes from Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, the large regional food bank in Harrisburg that I mentioned before. We also receive food from CAP, from Blessings of Hope, from Midwest Food Bank, and from a lot of people who do food drives for us. Sometimes it's an individual or a church or a business. You can see some of the food that we got from a food drive there on the left. We also partner with the Barnstormers every September on a large food drive. We have protein drives, we have pasta drives, we have peanut butter drives, we have cereal drives, a little bit of anything and everything, because the more partners we have, the more sources of food, the more we can get out to families. And it's, once again, it's just a wonderful way for us to source food and get it out to into the hands of people that really need it. We're talking a lot about the packs that we distribute. We stopped right before COVID doing backpacks. And then during COVID, we totally had to switch our entire process. So we started packing boxes in our warehouse. This is a sample box. This is a sample pack now. This is what families got actually last week in their pack. You can see the tuna that we talked about. The peppers don't go in the box, actually, they get something else. There's cereal, you see some rice there. There's some walnuts that are repackaged there as a snack. Lots of times, there's peanut butter, other non-perishables. As I mentioned before, we're very much aware of the weight of the box. The box last week, to be perfectly precise, was 9.2 pounds, which is kind of on the upper ends of where we like to be. And that included the milk and the green peppers that families received. So there's always fresh produce of some kind. So like the green peppers that you saw that I talked about already, there's also always a protein. So like the tuna that you see here, maybe canned chicken, frozen ground beef, or some other kind of chicken, or legumes. And all of those packs that you see, this is how they get out the door for us. So Power Packs is a staff of 6. We're doing 1,400 packs a week. We rely on our volunteers tremendously to help us. Volunteers pack all the packs. You can see on the left there a group of volunteers. I think that's actually the Lancaster County Junior League that was in packing for us one night. We have many dedicated volunteers. Just in a staff meeting today, I think I was told the number of volunteer hours in the month of April was 709, and we now have 475 active volunteers that help us do this. and our volunteers enable us to accomplish everything we do. We are incredibly blessed to have them. Everything is packed by volunteers. All the packs that go out to all those 91 school sites are delivered by volunteers. It's really amazing how much our volunteers are dedicated to our mission. This is what it looks like when all the packs are packed. It's getting ready to go out our door. And you can see they're labeled there to get ready to go out to different places. If you remember, my first slide was Sean. I said we don't want to lose sight of what we do. It's because of these kids that we come to work every day. It's not a job, it's a passion. We want to get the food out to kids like this. A few years ago, I had the pleasure of attending an event with Russell Redding, Pennsylvania Secretary of Agriculture. He made a comment that has stayed with me ever since then. He said, you can have many problems in life, but if you're hungry, you only have one problem. And that is so true. Food is the most basic of needs. 1 in 6 kids, as we mentioned, in Lancaster County are going hungry, and that's unacceptable. So that's why we're providing this nutritious food, why we're doing the apples, the milk, and everything else, really working to change families' meal patterns, to build a better understanding of how important healthy eating is. Our goal was to end childhood hunger in our communities, to nourish mind, body, and soul. And we know that those children, like Grace here, for them to have a relevant and inspiring experience in school every day, we need to take away hunger as a distraction to learning. When we do that, it opens up a world of possibility for all those kids and what they can do. We know we can't end hunger alone. It will take a lot of people. Parish Resource Center is one that's working with us to help do that. It's an audacious goal to try to end childhood hunger, but we know we can change the lives of children one meal at a time. And that's what we're all working to do. So thank you very much for listening to me ramble on and on. If you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer any questions.
I'll start us out with Brad. You kind of described the lead up, where food is coming from, how the boxes are getting packed. Can you tell us a little bit about the other side of it, the handout, how we saw pallets ready to go out to schools? How does that part run?
So Wednesdays and Thursdays are our distribution days. We learned a long time ago, long before I ever came to Power Packs, that Fridays weren't a good distribution day because so many schools are off on Fridays. And because we work directly with the schools, because that's where the kids are, that's where the parents are. So we distribute on Wednesdays and Thursdays. How that works is, so you saw all those pallets staged. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, we have 2 dock doors in our warehouse. And in Lebanon, there's one. Every 10 minutes, we have someone scheduled at each of those dock doors. And they are all volunteer drivers. We have volunteers working with our warehouse coordinator in our warehouse. People pull up, we load their vehicles, and they take it off to the schools. And then either themselves or other volunteers that we have work with a liaison in the schools, which is either a social worker or a teacher or a counselor, to distribute the food there from the schools. So either the kids take it home or parents come there and pick it up. Now, there are some exceptions to that. We do work with some churches and some other sites like that, for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's because the schools don't have someone that's available. Lots of times we do it because the churches can offer additional hours, because many times at a school, the parents have to pick up by 3:30 or 4. And for working parents, that's just not going to work. That's not feasible. It's not possible. So a lot of the churches we work with have hours that are like from 3 to 6 or 4 to 6 or something like that. So it gives parents more of an option to be able to pick up and still get the food that they need. That ALICE population, I don't know if you're familiar with that acronym. it used to be what people commonly call the working poor. Alice is asset limited, income constrained, employed. It means people who are out there working, typically that don't qualify for maybe SNAP benefits and WIC and things like that, but they still just can't make ends meet. So we're helping them put food on the table and stretch their food dollars. So that's a long answer to your question, Rhoda. I know that.
It was nice to visualize the other side, the other end of it. And that is quite a tight schedule at your dock doors on those days.
Yeah, from 10 to 3. And Joy can relate to this because she's been in our warehouse and seen it. It's organized chaos sometimes. But I like to say it's a well-run machine, and most of the time it is. But on days that it's cold or raining, or in the summer and it's 95, it can be quite an ordeal. But it's what we have to do to get the food out to people. So that's what we do.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions at this point? There will be time later as well. Why don't we go to Joy then and kind of hear about it from the side of the schools. So Joy, if you can introduce yourself and explain your partnership, your role in Power Packs getting out there, that'd be great.
Sure. Thanks for having me. So Penn Manor has been involved with Power Packs for over a dozen years. We were one of the first few school districts to get involved. I heard about it first from another social worker at Warwick, and it sounded absolutely fabulous, but I was unable to join right away. So she would pass the recipes over to me, and I initially started making copies for my families because that is huge. These are easy to replicate, nutritious, low-cost meals. And if I can't give them the food, at least I can give them a tool that might be able to help them grocery shop better. So Penn Manor may have started a little bit illegally, taking the recipes and sharing them. When I first met Joan, again, because most of the families that qualify also qualify for free or reduced lunch. And we started in one of our buildings that is almost 50% at that point in time for free reduced lunch. Thought, this is great. I'm going to get 200 Power Packs every week for families. And Joan was like, slow down. That's not really what you want to do. And Joan was very smart and had a lot of wisdom. And we did start very, very small. We started with like 12, 15, gradually started to increase our numbers. As Brad said, Penn Manor is not a walkable community as the school district of Lancaster is. So we had to kind of tweak what we were doing, and families were not accustomed to a school assisting them with food outside of the typical school day. So there were a lot of nuances to introduce it to families, explain to them why it could be helpful. There was a stigma about it for some of them, but once it got going, it rolled beautifully. And as Brad showed you the boxes that it comes in now, that is not the way it typically came when we got it. It came in the crates all unassembled. So another beautiful thing about Power Packs is we were able to incorporate other students, high school students, to come down and volunteer. And then, well, why are we doing this? And who is this for? Opened up great dialogue, great conversation for them to understand outside of their own world what's going on. We quickly blossomed to more elementary schools, and then eventually to some of our middle schools and our high school as well. So what started out as 12 or 15 packs about a dozen years ago, we are up to 125 families receiving Power Packs on a weekly basis. It has had many different development changes and what kind of foods were going out. but it's always been helpful for the families. And when it ends, prior to them doing summer distributions, they would always be asking, when is it going to start again? And when can we get this again? It's always fun when they will take the recipe home and then send us pictures. And I've gotten that before. Look what we made tonight. It was a great meal. Thank you so very much. They are always very, very appreciative. And as Brad said, it is a year-long process, and people can join and leave as they wish. And we do have families that say, it was great, I'm now on my feet, I no longer need you. But I just registered a family last week as well. They will be continuing to write. And I said to her, I'm like, it's only going to be a couple more weeks this school year, and then it will start again in June. Do you want to wait? She's like, I can't wait. I need it now. And the registration process has become so easy. They've got QR codes and everything. It's very simple to assist the families in getting registered. So at Penn Manor, we partner with one of our local food banks. As he said, not everything comes out of the school. We used to do it out of the school. But again, the community realized, hey, there's a bigger issue going on here. And the community came together and developed an additional food bank. So now they can get double. Again, the food bank does not give the recipes. They give other food, but Power Packs, that is so key to assisting our families long term. You know, we can just give them the food, or we can teach them how to use the food in their best way. So they get double some weeks of things, but they are always very appreciative of it. Make it as easy as possible for them. So yeah, I kind of went off the cuff here. Like, Penn Manor's been enjoying it, and all of our families do. I don't know if there's any specific questions as to how Penn Manor does it, or what the best way is for us.
I'm curious how it's integrated into like the school structure. Is it through social workers? Is it who is finding kids? Is it just a roster of kids at the beginning of the year? You get free meals. We're going to talk to you about Power Packs. How do you?
Yeah, so we
how do you
have
do
the
it?
posters. We have the posters up everywhere. And unfortunately, with COVID, our little food bank went from 30 people a week to almost 300 people a week. And because of that, they became even more aware of what Power Packs is. I wanted to mention one other beautiful thing about Power Packs is it's never just, here's your box of food. There has been a connection from the get-go, and Joan was very she pushed that a lot as well. Don't just give them food. Get to know your families, make that connection, find out what's going on in their life. And that has been a wonderful opportunity to grow with these families as well. So each week when we hand it out, we get to, hi, Sarah, how are you? How are your kids? The other fun thing, and I don't know if you know this or not, Brad, when the food is distributed, and Penn Manor is one of the larger sites, we already have quite often a line of folks outside our food bank waiting. And they will jump in, and they know the routine, and they will jump in and help bring all the boxes in and put the milk where it needs to go. They are fantastic. So you can add to that list of volunteers, Brad, a few more people that are not duly noted, but they should get credit for their assistance. And always wonderful to help out each other.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Brad or Joy about Power Packs or about how they integrate into the school systems? Brad, I'm curious if there's any differences in how you're integrated into different school districts. Are most of them kind of a very similar setup of what point you kind of enter the school system? Do the different districts kind of function differently? Oh, he might have froze.
I will say that when Penn Manor started, we specifically targeted all the families who already qualified for free reduced lunch. That was way back when it was just paper and pen, and we made tons of copies and sent it home directly to those families they had a very nice cover sheet explaining it, and then we would get the papers back. Now, like I said, with that QR code, we have it on all of our buildings. It can go out on our blogs. It's very easy for them to sign up.
That's great. Well, why don't we, oh, yeah, he'll be back in a minute. Rebecca, why don't we swap over to you and you can introduce yourself a little bit and tell us how you got involved in Power Packs and what you've been discovering about it.
Sure thing. Thanks so much. And thanks, Joy. That was a great perspective. And I will have lots of follow-up questions for you at a later date. I'm Rebecca Ryan. I'm a developmental psychologist at Georgetown University, and my lab, the Child Development and Social Policy Lab, focuses on studying public policies and programs that can support families, mostly who are at economic risk. And I'll talk a little bit about, I'm a college professor, so I have to have PowerPoint slides to be able to say anything. So I will share my slides with you guys. Whoops, hold on. Can you see my slides now? Good. Okay. So we started this Power Packs Georgetown partnership about over 3 years ago. And it's because I found out about Power Packs through a colleague, Anna Johnson, who's part of the team now. And I heard about what they were doing, particularly the provision of fresh foods, which Brad is right. I study food assistance and food insecurity in kids, and I don't know any program in the country that does what they do in providing fresh foods and providing recipes every week. And as soon as I found out about that program, I was like, Anna, how can we partner with them? I want to do research with them and on this program. How can we do it? And I remember the day that I talked to them and we started this partnership. It was probably the most exciting day of my career, honestly. And it has been the most rewarding research practice partnership I've ever been part of. And I have so much to say about it and not enough time tonight, but I'll just give you some highlights. So like I said, my lab studies food insecurity and how it affects parents and kids. And as Brad explained earlier, food insecurity predicts worse parent mental and physical health and worse social and academic outcomes for kids. What we also know is that it's pretty common in the United States. 1 in 8 children suffer from food insecurity in the US, 1 in 6, Brad tells us, in Lancaster County. The best way to address food insecurity, at least the most direct way, is through food assistance. And we know that lots of research shows us that federal food assistance promotes food security, which produces better outcomes. And this is where Power Packs comes in. We study SNAP and we study WIC and all sorts of food assistance programs, but Power Packs is really unique in that it is so locally based and it provides that bridge, as Brad talked about, between school meals on the weekends from Friday to Monday. And it's got these wonderful features of, unlike other backpack programs, which there are thousands and thousands of backpack programs around the country, this is the only one I know of that provides fresh foods and recipes to support both meal routines and to combat food insecurity at the household level, not just for kids. In our work with them, then, we want to know, our main question has been, first, how does Power Packs reduce food insecurity? But then in the first few years of our partnership, other questions came up. One of the things we're really interested in is, do SNAP recipients engage in the program differently than the Power Packs recipients who don't receive federal food assistance? And then, of course, COVID happened right during our first bout of data collection. And so for better or for worse, how Power Packs help families manage the COVID-19 pandemic became a major research question for us as well. So today, I just want to tell you a little bit about who enrolls in Power Packs and why they enroll, what we've learned about that. To the extent to which Power Packs reduces food insecurity and promotes healthy meal routines, how SNAP recipients may or may not use it differently and benefit differently from the program than non-recipients. And then a little bit about what we learned during COVID about Power Packs and the role it plays during big crises like the pandemic. All right, so who enrolls in Power Packs? We conducted a survey of all the families who enrolled in fall of 2021. And we found that the majority of families identify as Hispanic or Latinx, which is fairly reflective of the school districts in which Power Packs resides. 30% reported that their primary language was Spanish. 60% of families were living at or below the poverty line, and over 90% were low income. 93% of families reported having some or a lot of trouble paying for basic expenses at the time that they enrolled in Power Packs. And over half reported having a lot of trouble. So the families who are enrolling really are families who are struggling economically, at least at the time when they enroll. How about food insecurity? Brad told you a little bit about Lancaster and about national statistics. What we found was that 55% of households who enroll in Power Packs would be categorized by the USDA as food insecure. So they have low or very low food security. And the rate in Pennsylvania, as Brad said, is about 9%. 80% of families who enroll in Power Packs have marginal food insecurity or less. So marginal food insecurity isn't quite food insecure according to the USDA, but it means that you have trouble, you worry about paying for food, and you have trouble creating balanced meals for the family on a regular basis. 50% of adults report having low or very low food insecurity in Power Packs, and 24%, so 1 in 4 parents, have very low food insecurity, which means they're regularly skipping meals and regularly cutting back on food because they can't afford to buy more. A third of children have low or very low food security who enroll in Power Packs. And like national, and the rate in the US just so you know, is about 6%. Only 1% of children in the program have very low food insecurity. And this is a dynamic that you see a lot, which is among food insecure households, parents do their level best to protect their children from the worst experiences of food insecurity. It's very, very uncommon for children to have very low food insecurity, which would mean skipping multiple meals in a week. But as you can see, it's the parents who are doing that, 1 in 4. So we asked parents, why did you enroll? And they could circle any reason that we gave them. We gave them about 5 or 6 different reasons. And I'm just going to tell you about the most common reported reasons. Unsurprisingly, probably 70% of families said the reason why they enroll is for the food assistance. 36% said it was also or in lieu for new foods for their kids. They wanted their kids just to try new foods. So it was like a nutrition education program for them. And 32% said they enrolled for the recipes. They just wanted to know about these recipes that Joy talked to you about, which are healthful and low cost. I will say the reasons why people enrolled, at least for food assistance, differed by level of food insecurity. So 80% of the food insecure families said that they enrolled for the food assistance versus only 45% of Power Packs relatively food secure families. But interestingly, there was no difference across food insecurity levels in whether or not they enrolled for new foods or recipes or nutrition education. That seemed to be a third of families, just irrespective of whether they needed the food assistance itself, thought that was a really good reason for enrolling in Power Packs, which to me just emphasizes how unique this program is and the unique service it's providing. All right, what about the effects of Power Packs on food insecurity? And how about these questions that we have about SNAP and how Power Packs help families during COVID? We collected data from January to October of, that should say 2020, sorry. We did it again from January, October to 2021. We did both years, but I'm going to talk to you about the 2020 data. In 2020, and parents answered 16 questions, but 4 of them were about their daily food insecurity, and 4 were about their daily meal routine. So we literally texted families every single day for 2 weeks a month for 10 months each year. Every single day, were you worried about food today? Have you eaten less than you should? Did your child eat less than he or she should? And has anyone in the household had to skip a meal? And then we asked, did you share a family meal? And did somebody cook? Because as Brad explained, those are also goals of the program. Just to give you a sense of who responded to our survey. So this isn't necessarily representative of all PowerPacks families, but these are the families, the small subset of families who we got to answer our daily surveys. And mostly, I guess I wanted to just highlight that the majority of families who responded to the surveys identified as Hispanic or Latinx, and they had relatively low education levels. Uh, 70% received SNAP or food stamps, and 49% reported having trouble paying bills. Remember that 93% of all PowerPacks families reported having trouble paying bills. And so the families who are doing our daily surveys are actually somewhat better off than PowerPacks families overall. So that's just something to consider when you look at the effects on food insecurity. They're definitely an underestimate of how much PowerPacks affects families' food insecurity. So looking at food insecurity and meal routines, we found that among all families who responded to the survey, in the weeks that families picked up their pack, worry about food was reduced by 10%, and child food insecurity or children cutting back on food was reduced by 20%. That's among all families. Among non-SNAP families, so among families who don't receive any other form of federal food assistance, PowerPacks reduced worry about food by 15%, children cutting back on food by 20%. PowerPacks also among those families reduced meal skipping. So one of the most extreme examples of food insecurity by 20%, and significantly increased the numbers of nights that families cook from scratch, which is great because that's really what the program was designed to do. These differences between non-SNAP families and SNAP families have to do, we think, with how SNAP families use the PowerPack program differently than the non-SNAP families. We asked the SNAP families what day their distribution was, like what day of the month they got their SNAP benefits. And then we looked at whether or not they picked up the first week they got their benefits, the second week after, the third week after, and the fourth week after. And what we find is only about half pick up in week 1. At least that was true in 2020 and 2021. But it's up to 71% who pick up their packs in week 4. So essentially what we think is happening is that SNAP families are really using PowerPacks to smooth their food consumption, whereas the non-SNAP families are really using PowerPacks as their main source of food assistance. A little bit about COVID. We were following families daily throughout January to midsummer during 2020 when COVID first hit. And so we were following families when schools closed in Lancaster, Lebanon County, and all over Pennsylvania. And what we found was that for everyone, food insecurity, this is food insecurity here, food insecurity spiked right around the time when schools closed. Why? Because they were all of a sudden restricted from working, restricted from going out, and also mostly it was because the kids did not have access to their school meals. So food insecurity spiked. Food insecurity spiked particularly for those families who ended up picking up their packs throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And what we found was the families who did that, their level of food insecurity precipitously dropped after they started picking up their packs during the pandemic, whereas the families who didn't pick up their packs, basically this is like a flat line. They had kind of a steady elevated state of food insecurity throughout those early months of the pandemic. So that was a lot in general. In sum, what we found so far is that PowerPacks really serves the families who most need and want food assistance, but it also provides important nutrition education and recipes that families also want and need. PowerPacks families value these unique features, right? The new foods and the recipes. We also found that PowerPacks does in fact do what it aims to do, which is to reduce weekly food insecurity and enhance families' meal routines. And this is particularly true for the families who have no other source of food assistance like SNAP. And we think for those families, it's really serving as their main source of steady food assistance. And we also wanted to just note that families, Power Packs really did protect families from that high level of food insecurity that a lot of area families experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have lots of plans about what we're going to do next. One of our big questions is, how much does Power Packs reduce food insecurity over a whole school year? What we've done so far is look at what it does week to week. But I want to know, does it move people's yearly food insecurity levels? And to do that, we need a much bigger and longer study. We want to know if Power Packs boost academic and social outcomes, and which ones and to what extent, and for whom does it do it the most? We really want to know if it's helping kids learn and grow like it's aiming to do. And we also want to know if Power Packs is improving parents' mental health and well-being by reducing their food insecurity, their stress about food, and potentially improving their nutrition. So we're hoping to move away from, to continue to research whether or not Power Packs affects food insecurity, but then add to that the effects on parents and kids of the program. And our big plan is to do this with a randomized field experiment that we're going to start in the school district of Lancaster and Lebanon school districts. And essentially, and I can answer questions about this if people have them, but we're going to randomly assign all students in the districts to either a kind of enhanced access to Power Packs or a standard access to Power Packs. No one's going to be denied Power Packs. And we're going to see if randomization to this high access treatment group, how that relates to parent well-being, household food insecurity, as well as child well-being, measured in part through grades and test scores, which the school districts have been kind enough to offer to share with us. So that's what's coming next. Thanks a lot. And I just wanted to thank Brad and Power Packs again for partnering with us, because we love it so much.
Thank you, Rebecca. We love partnering with you. And sorry, Rhoda, I didn't mean to just not answer your question. Zoom decided it didn't want me anymore. So
We assumed you'd be back. Well, I have a question for Rebecca. I'm very curious what enhanced access to Power Packs might look like. Or maybe that's too far down the road, but.
Well, I mean, it hopefully will be not so far down the road. It's all right. We're imagining a two-stage randomized field experiment in which all families in the district are first randomized to super easy enrollment access. Joy said enrollment is super easy for families. We want to make it super easy through text messaging, essentially. Just text message links and text message supports for families to just immediately enroll. And so at each school, if we can randomly assign, then we theoretically in the treatment group, you get more people enrolling in Power Packs than in the control group. And you can use that randomization as a proxy, essentially, for did they get the treatment or did they not get the treatment? And then you can use that randomization to look at things like test scores and grades. Then once families are enrolled in the program, we also want to apply a lot of the insights we're getting from behavioral economics about how to get families and people in general even more engaged in the services that they want to be engaged in. And that's through things like weekly reminders and planning prompts and social rewards and all those groovy pictures you get, Joy. Well, if the treatment families text around a picture, we're going to give them a prize and we're going to give them a social reward. All sorts of things to get families super engaged in the program and coming back week after week. And so then, to the extent that it works, we can use that enhanced engagement in the program to look at fine-grained things that are happening in the home, like detailed household level food insecurity, details on parents' mental health, details on children's health, children's sleep, lots of the real developmental outcomes that we're interested in that we can't look at for all kids in the school district. That's not doable. But for the smaller sample of families who enroll, we can really dig in and see if this enhanced engagement, which we're hoping to induce, actually confers to benefits in the home that we think it should.
Thank you. So
I
are
have a
there
couple
any?
questions.
Can I
Oh,
ask?
sure. Go
Can
for
I
it,
ask
Joy.
a quick question? Hi, I'm
Yes,
Miriam. I have been
Miriam.
listening, but we've been doing other stuff and I didn't think it was polite to eat in your presence. So anyway, I was thinking that this was every week. I live in Lancaster County and I am aware of the Power Packs, but I was amazed, Brad, thank you for your presentation. It was very helpful of how huge of a program it is. It's much bigger than I thought it was. And of course, I realized the reality that the hungry people are all across the board. It's not just, it's not just the center city. And I was thinking it was every week that they're getting a distribution, but then something that Rebecca said in her report was about the SNAP families. Well, they don't get it the first or second week because that's right after they've gotten their money or, gotten their SNAP benefits. So then I thought, okay, so life happens to all of our lives. But these families probably have it even more. They can't get the gas to get the car there, blah, blah, whatever. If you're having 50 meals that come to the school, what do you do when 10 people weren't able to show up? Is it your job to go distribute it? I don't know. Do you understand the question I'm thinking about there?
Yeah, so the two parts there I'll answer. So number one, we do distribute every week. What Rebecca said was just that, that sometimes people don't pick up depending on when they receive their SNAP benefits. So we do distribute every week. There are some exceptions, like the week between Christmas and New Year's when there's no school, we don't do it then. But for the most part, it's every week. So what we do when people don't pick up is there's not one answer for that. Sometimes those packs come back to us at our warehouse and we restock those items. Sometimes if it's the end of the day, and Joy can probably speak to this, if it's the end of the distribution time and there are packs left over and there are families there, people will get double because we want to give it to people who need it. Sometimes the schools hold on to it from one day till the next to see if the parents come back. There's a variety of things that happen with those packs. So they always end up either back with us or in the hands of a family who needs it one way or another.
Well, I was quite sure you were going to do something worthy and noble with it, but I did think that there would be occasions where, what are we doing? Johnny didn't show up this time.
Yeah, we try to reach out. Well, we remind every family on distribution day through text messages, through emails. Today's distribution day. Don't forget to pick up your pack. They get it at least once, maybe twice every day. And then if they haven't picked up, and if we know that, we will send them a second reminder to hopefully they can pick it up the next day, so that it just doesn't come back to us, so that they have the access to that food they need.
And
Miriam, those are really good questions.
Oh, go ahead. What?
Those are really good questions. Again, when Power Packs first started, you want to buy in, you want the families to be involved. We're not just handing out food. This is a partnership. We want to work together. So one of the things that they suggested was that the parents needed to come to get it. And again, maybe we did some things a little illegally at Penn Manor. But because we made those connections with the families, we would talk with them and, their car broke down, or they didn't have gas that week, or they use favors all the time. And so their neighbor is the one that has to take them to get the Power Packs. And you know what? They asked them for 4 favors this week. They can't ask them for another one. So we would take it out to their house, although they were not really down with it. But it has evolved. Power Packs has come to the realization that this is not easy for families to get to a school between these very small constricted hours. And as Brad said, we would hold on to it again the next day or the next day, make those connections, find out what's going on, and get the families the food. We don't want to double punish them. I'm sorry that your car broke down and now we're not going to give you any food. And I'm sure many other districts did the same thing. We made sure that they got it.
We've actually discussed a delivery model, but we're nowhere near that yet. That's an entirely new undertaking. I mean, I know
you too, because if you're delivering it, you want to be sure that Johnny or Mary is there to receive it. Yeah. There's a lot of dynamics to keep it
I mean,
going.
I know the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank has a senior program kind of similar to Meals on Wheels. And they have started utilizing DoorDash to do some home delivery of the senior boxes.
Mm.
So there are some options out there, but that's far down the road for us if we ever go that path.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Well, it's a wonderful ministry, and I think too, I mean, it's a shame, Lancaster County, good Lord, with all the food we have in this county, to have 1 out of 6 kids. Was that the number, 1 out of 6? And then
Yeah.
the lady Rebecca said it's 1 out of 8, but I'm thinking maybe if people are lying and you're not really finding out who it is.
Oh,
I
no,
mean,
it's
no.
1 out of 8 nationally. 1 out
Nationally.
of 6 in
No,
Lancaster.
I didn't mean that. Yeah, that's what I mean. But Lancaster says it's 1 out of 6, and nationally it says it's 1 out of 8. But I wonder if people are not necessarily telling you whether they are or not. I work as a registered nurse full-time. I'm up at UPMC Lidditz. And so they've recently now added the social determinants. When we admit a patient, you know, you come in with your heart problem or your pneumonia, and you got a list of admission things this long to ask them everything about their allergies and their this and their that. And, you know, you do want their whole med list. But one of the things they want now is a bunch of social determinants, which is, maybe you all know what these questions are that are, I don't know if it's now required or if it's just a UPMC thing, but it's basically trying to figure out housing insecurity and food insecurity. So nobody tells me they're having food insecurity, even though we have questioned it in a way, you know, does that
Right.
mean that poor people aren't coming in to get cared for? I don't know. It's an interesting question. Why nobody's actually admitting that, because I'm thinking, I'm sure that it does. If somebody admits to that, that triggers into our social security, triggers into our social worker department to do a follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers can differ a little bit. I mean, I saw a community needs assessment, I think, the end of last year, middle of last year, that the numbers were a little different than other numbers. And I think it just comes down to who's asking the questions and what people will answer.
Mhm.
Yeah, but most of the numbers I think that you're seeing, Miriam, are actual numbers of people who are going to a food pantry, going to a soup kitchen, coming to Power Packs, and that's how those numbers are being determined.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're involved with Zion Lutheran, we're over at Landisville Mennonite, and we collect food there too, but it's just a big need. So. And I like the idea of trying to teach people how to cook, how to incorporate it, because we're trying to help it be long-term. But just one meal, and then I'm saying to my husband, okay, so they get one meal on Thursday. That's supposed to last them Saturday and Sunday, and we just ate our fish and salad and whatever, and that was just, what day of the week is this? This is only Monday, okay, you know.
Yeah, and that's why we give them some other things. You know, they'll get that box of cereal, they'll get some healthy snacks and things like that, so that the one meal will sustain them for a while, and we try to give them some else. We know we're not the end all be all, and we just,
But it's a worthwhile start. It's an important contribution. It's an
Exactly.
important
Yep.
contribution you're doing, Brad.
thank you.
Mhm.
Tori, you had some questions?
I did. Brad is fantastic with throwing out so many numbers, and I can only write them down as fast as I little can. And Rebecca had a lot of stats too. So maybe I missed it, but in those figures, do we have a number of how many families have at least one, if not both people working?
Mm,
I did
yeah.
not provide that. We actually, that's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know.
In my experience, I would say that the vast majority of the families getting Power Packs are working. They have at least one person in the household working, if not both of them. But I wonder, that's not really a question that I've ever seen asked, and I wasn't sure if that is.
So I was on another panel discussion last week with United Way of Lancaster, and one of the other panelists was the United Way of Pennsylvania Public Policy Director, Phil Falvo. And he was talking specifically around those numbers. Yeah, I'm not going to try to quote it from memory, but I can find that the vast majority of people who are food insecure have two working adults. I mean, it was over 50%, well over 50%.
And that's where the access of Power Packs in the schools is so important, because that kind of work schedule, school schedule, getting to another type of food pantry or another type of food resource is even harder. Getting another scheduled thing on, and again, many of them aren't open in the evenings, not open on the weekends. So the ability to put the food where you have to be anyway is very important.
And then I had one other question. Again, Rebecca, I know you said at the beginning of the month, you have fewer people who are receiving SNAP necessarily picking up every week, but by the end of the month, they're out of their SNAP, and so they might be picking up more regularly. Are we able to ask them? Because Brad, how many weeks is it? 35 weeks that they get Power Packs in a school year? That
During
is
the school year,
30
depending on how the calendar falls, it's either 34 or 35.
Yeah, so that's 35 recipes in theory. And for many of our families, they are returners. So, and Power Packs does not like to repeat recipes. So in theory, if they've done it a couple of years, they might have over 100 recipes to choose from that are easy to make and lower cost. Are we able to ask our families getting Power Packs who also receive SNAP, are you reusing those recipes and making your SNAP benefits last even longer?
That's a phenomenal question, and I'm going to write it down and I'm going to answer it. That's a great question. I mean, well, and also you raised something at the beginning that actually our research team has not zeroed in on, which is parents want those recipes to use for shopping.
Yeah.
We've never, I mean, I sort of have known that that was an aim of the program, but we've never actually asked families how often they do that. And
Right.
we've never asked families in weeks when they don't pick up a pack, whether or not they nonetheless used a recipe or shopped with a recipe. So that's a really, really great question.
I do
Whether or
know
not,
families will tell me that if they don't use the recipe, that they still use that food in other recipes that they already, so they will tell me that. But I haven't had the opportunity to ask families as well.
And
But
I
I would
would
like to
wonder
know
if those are helpful recipes for other food pantry or other food support, because a lot of the
Yeah.
food, canned tuna, a lot of the food would be very similar to other food assistance food, which doesn't necessarily come with a convenient recipe card. Like all the
but it's
meal
all
boxes
food
that
you could
everybody
theoretically
loves.
get with food stamp benefits.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
And some of it comes with WIC. And we know
Yeah.
at least 25% of Power Packs families receive WIC on top of potentially food stamps.
Sorry, you have a question?
I'm wondering how helpful Power Packs program is for people who are living in their cars, living in motels, or living in campgrounds.
So,
do you have statistics on that?
so one of the things we started this year is we are working with the Families in Transition program in School District of Lancaster for families who are living in hotel rooms, who are couch surfing, to use that term, which I don't like, but that's kind of the common term for it. To provide those families with different food, because they may not have access to an oven. They may only have a hot plate or a microwave. One of the things we did this year, you take things for granted. And as we started talking internally at one point, we're giving out canned goods. It doesn't do any good to people if they don't have a can opener. So we actually partnered with the Junior League of Lancaster, and they collected 1,500 can openers for us. And one of our distributions, we put can openers in the pack, so that no matter what, everyone can at least open the cans we give them. So we do our best to try to get food in the hands of everyone who needs it. We know there are people out there sometimes we miss. But we do our best to, no matter where they are, to try to get food in their hands.
That was a
Thank
great
you.
question. That's a segment of people that are becoming more and more common right now.
Sure, we have several families at Penn Manor that are currently in hotels. I have one that has been in a hotel the entire year. I actually have two that have been in the hotel the entire year. And I just dropped off food for them. You know what it was? processed mac and cheese in cups because they also don't have bowls and they might not also have spoons. So I got to give them some plastic spoons as well. Processed Chef Boyardee. Some fruit that was in a cup. Not sure how long that it definitely wasn't fresh. So it is hard for those families to be able to eat healthy foods.
Yeah.
I mean, and the one thing we will do for those families when we have access to it is, like I showed you, the apples. If we get apples, oranges, broccoli that they can eat raw, things like that, we'll make sure that those families get that as well. You know, it's something that doesn't need to be cooked.
Well,
I'm always, go ahead.
go for it.
Well, I was just gonna to add to it as well, because these families, I do love them. And I'm always astounded when I'm dropping off and picking up kids at hotels, how many buses are there picking up and dropping off kids. The number of families that are in hotels is astronomical right now.
Mhm. And there's a lot of issues with it, and food is one of them for sure. Food is a lot harder.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. I learned a lot. This was great. I hope that you all feel the same way. We will send out a follow-up email with some contact information, some ways you can get involved, and some of these statistics and as well, so that you can refer to these in the future when you're thinking about this issue. So thank you very much to the presenters. Oh, there's the cat.
Yeah.
Sorry. Becca's cat just popped in. Been waiting for it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, everybody. Have a good evening.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.